Good evening, everyone. We'll just take a few more seconds to let everybody come in and get settled. A few more seconds for everyone to get set up and comfortable at home. We're so glad everyone's joining us, especially on such a beautiful, seemingly spring evening. Welcome, welcome. Okay, I think we'll kick off here. So yes, again, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to this online event hosted by Humber College as we celebrate National Engineering Month, when the Canadian engineering community comes together to celebrate engineering excellence. My name is Dr. Martin Spinks. I am the Associate Dean of the Design and Built Environment Cluster within the Faculty of Applied Sciences and Technology at Humber College. I'm honored to be your moderator this evening. National Engineering Month is particularly exciting for us at Humber College as we recently launched new engineering degrees in mechatronics, information system engineering, and the built environment. And we did that this past fall. These new four-year degree programs complement our existing portfolio of technician, technology, degree, apprenticeship, and graduate certificate programs, just to name a few. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that Humber College is located within the traditional and treaty lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit. Known as Adobagok, the place of the alders in Michi-Sagwig language, the region is uniquely situated along Humber River watershed, which historically provided an integral connection for Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat peoples between the Ontario Lakeshore and the Lake Simcoe Georgian Bay regions. Now home to people of numerous nations, Adobagok continues to provide a vital source of interconnection for all. Humber College in the Faculty of Applied Sciences and Technology, otherwise known as FAST, is a proud partner of this annual month-long tribute to engineering. Today is a special day when we celebrate women's achievements and increase visibility to forge a gender-equal world. All gender identities are welcome, and we look forward to engaging with you. On International Women's Day, we are celebrating women's achievements in engineering and technology, and we have assembled a diverse and extraordinary panel of fearless women and supportive men who will share their authentic stories and how there is strength in our differences, and this strength will bring innovation, productivity, and pride to a more elastic workforce. So we invite you to stay connected and engaged with us, not just here tonight, but also on your social channels using hashtag NEM2022 and hashtag Humber FAST, that's Humber Fast. Tonight, our panel is comprised of Humber College FAST faculty, staff, colleagues, and a student who will all share their insights, experiences, and career journeys in the celebration of women in engineering and technology. We invite you to engage with our panelists. If you have a question for our panel or for a specific speaker, please include your question along with the panelist's name in our chat. We will allocate 10 minutes at the end of our discussion to answer your questions. Now, please join me in welcoming our panelists. My colleague, Mona Nuruzafar, is the Associate Dean, Math and Research Skills and Analysis at the Faculty of Liberal Arts and Sciences and Innovative Learning at Humber College. Mona is an experienced leader in academia and industry with more than 15 years experience in teaching, curriculum development, and industry engagement. Hello, Mona. We also have Dr. Daniela Glastro, who is an assistant professor teaching stream at the University of Toronto, Chemical Engineering and Applied Chemistry Department, and a well-respected colleague of FAST. She has more than 20 years of experience in the design, optimization, startup, and operation of oil and gas and chemical facilities. Thank you so much for joining us, Daniela. Next, we have Janice Wojcik, who is the Manager of Work Integrated Learning and Industry Engagement Co-op and Work Placement Services Office at FAST. Jan empowers students to get a head start in their careers through work integrated learning experiences and works with employers to identify talent for co-op, work placement, internship, and full-time staffing needs. Jan also holds a Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering. Hello, Janice. My colleague, Dr. Jonathan Kim, is the Associate Dean of Information and Communication Technology at FAST. A professional engineer, Jonathan is an experienced leader in academia with a demonstrated history of excellence in teaching, applied research, capstone projects, curriculum development, and industry engagement. Hi, Jonathan. And our final panelist is a first-year engineering student, Cassandra Burch, who is studying in our Built Environment Bachelor of Engineering program at Humber College. Welcome, Cassandra, and thank you so much for joining us. Once again, I am Dr. Martin Spinks. I'm the Associate Dean for Design and Built Environment Cluster at Humber College, and I will be your moderator this evening. A warm welcome to all of our panelists and our viewers who are joining us on this beautiful evening. So to kick off, first, I would like to ask each of our panelists to please tell us briefly what inspired you to pursue your career path. And Mona, if you don't mind, I would like to begin with you.
Sure, no problem. Nice to meet you all, and thank you for the invitation. My passion for engineering really started at the age of 12. My brother was studying engineering at that time, electrical engineering, and he was my math tutor at the same time as well. And oftentimes he would bring in parts of the electrical engineering discipline into his math tutoring sessions with me. And it really intrigued me and, inspired that passion for me to look at engineering as a career option for myself. But to be honest with you, that career path was built on a passion I have for mathematics, for curiosity to solve problems, and work with my hands as well. So it was a combination of who inspired me and what I was essentially good at for studying. But that career path has led me down different paths as well. Engineering was a great discipline for my undergrad that opened many doors in terms of consultancy and practice. And I eventually studied industrial engineering. My family's all electrical. I wanted to do something different in that aspect. But the career path took different spins, and I went and did my MBA and just finished my PhD dissertation. But it's always been attached to my passion, what I love doing and what I'm good at or have strength in my capabilities. So that is a short snapshot in who inspired me and where I am right now in my career.
And it also sounds like a career of lifelong learning. That's the wonderful thing that I think we're going to explore in this.
Correct. Okay, we may have lost Martine. Oh, she's back, I think.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. I apologize. I was just saying, Mona, congratulations on your PhD dissertation. If you lose me again, I apologize to my audience. I've not had any problems until tonight. I'll turn off my video and hopefully that will help if you lose me again. Apologies. Daniela, how about you?
Well, we don't have any engineer in my family. I'm the first one. So I would say that back in the early 90s, when I wanted to go to university, same as Mona, I love math and I loved math and I still love math. And I was clearly influenced by the oil industry in my country of origin, Venezuela. So I wanted to work for the oil and gas industry. So then I worked for more than 20 years as a process engineer in many different countries. So and always in oil and gas, well, mostly in oil and gas facilities and oil fields. And I was, and I'm still very much fascinated, super fascinated about process simulation, again, math-based stuff, no problem solving. It was an incredibly challenging environment for a woman. Well, it's going to depend also, of course, I mean, on the country where I was and many other things there, but in general, it was really challenging. And after 20-something years, I went back to university. I finished my PhD almost 2 years ago now. And I thought it was time. It's time for me to go back to the academic world. So, and also not traveling so much because I was a little bit exhausted of traveling. And I wanted really to share my industrial experience, I mean, with my students as an engineer, as a woman, as a foreigner in different places. How was it? And that's precisely what I'm doing right now. So it's even better than before. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela. That's really showing us also that we start off one place, that you really can meander and wander, not just across disciplines, but across cultures and geographical boundaries. Janice, how about you?
Hi, thanks, Martine. Unlike my two colleagues, when I was in high school, I was not aware of this invisible profession called engineering. And I was really good in math and physics and science. And I had a guidance counselor who mentioned, you should think about engineering, which I totally dismissed. because it didn't really resonate with me. And I was already fixed on the more traditional roles like teaching and nursing and medicine. So when I went to university, I had the very good fortune to meet a woman on my floor in residence in first year. She was a mature student who had been actually a secretarial type person working for an engineering department at a big steel plant in Hamilton. And in her late 20s, she decided she wanted to be a mechanical engineer. So that story was interesting for me to start with because I had never met anyone like that. And over time, she became my role model and my mentor, similar to, I guess, Mona's brother. So we talked about engineering and all the career choices within that field. And for me, the appeal for engineering was the ability and the focus on problem solving and the applied mode of learning, which really fit well with my learning style. So I transferred into engineering the next year and fast track graduated in the middle of a deep recession. And so, of course, we have to persevere. And I did navigate more into business and human resources, but always within engineering firms. And then when the opportunity arose at Humber to manage the co-op department, it was a perfect blend for me to blend my private sector experience in staffing and career management, and the incredible opportunity to work with a really vast array of engineering and technology firms. And when you speak about learning every day, it's been years later and it's still a learning opportunity, and it really does reflect the diversity of the engineering profession that we're here to talk about. Thank you. That's my story.
Thanks, Jen. Cassandra, we're so interested to have you here as well because you're a current student. So tell us what's led you to join Humber College and to join our Bachelor of Built Environment in its inaugural year.
Yeah, so I will say, I will admit that engineering was not my original career path that I had in mind. I was applying for other programs at Humber and other places. And when I first saw the Bachelor of Engineering for the Built Environment, you know, it comes up in the list of related programs to what I was looking at. I was just really inspired by what I saw there. I found, you know, I was really interested in it. And I think I just saw an opportunity to kind of merge, you know, my love for people, academic subjects, and my creativity. And, you know, once I took those first few days of classes, you know, it was just amazing. And I knew that this was kind of like, this is kind of where I want to be.
Thank you. And it's so exciting to hear that also. It wasn't just that you always knew this, but that when you first came in and you were exposed to those first classes, that you felt it confirmed your hunch in a sense. And I hope you continue to explore and really open up your perspective in that way. That's wonderful to hear. For myself, like Jan, I'm not an engineer. That's the first thing. But I took an aptitude test in my high school, and I came out that I should be head nurse. My aptitude said I should be head nurse, and I thought, why can't I be doctor? I didn't understand why they wouldn't put me down to be doctor if I was supposed to be head nurse. So I wasn't interested in medicine, but I always thought I would do a PhD just so I could. I think it was almost a rebellion against that they put me down as head nurse and not as doctor. So I wanted to have doctor in my prefix. But I had some incredible mentors and was always interested in the urban environment, and not looking at buildings and infrastructure as these kind of individual pieces and silos. I had incredible professors that showed me how the world was actually, everything was interconnected. It was a system, and to really take that network approach. And I followed my passions, and it led me to McGill. I actually did international development and urban systems. And then I went to London School of Economics, and I did a degree in cities and economic studies. And then I followed my wonderful mentor, Yvonne Ryden, who's at University College London. I followed her there, and I did a PhD looking at the engagement of people and technology and urban planning, and understanding the interface for sustainability around that. And the thing that I love the most is that engineering and built environment, for me, like I said, it's a network approach, and it's led me back to Canada, and thankfully with my my work family here at Humber College, and the incredible women and supportive men that I'm surrounded around. This is truly a unique team and place to work. Speaking of that, the theme of National Engineering Month is that there's a place for you in engineering. And that's celebrating really this diversity of thought, opportunities, and people that make up the engineering and technology profession. And I would really like to ask Mona, Daniela, and Jonathan how the importance of women in leadership, how there is strength in our differences, and how women positively contribute to our profession. Mona, can we start with you, please?
No problem. I think if you look at engineering as a discipline, it's traditionally been male dominated. There are very few females. I look back in my first year class, I think maybe it was 20%. I think the average engineering numbers for Canada is about 20% female at the most in engineering discipline. So with that, I think, why is it important? Of course, diversity in anything adds value, adds credibility, brings different voices to problem solving. And in terms of females as female leadership, females are quite transformational. I think it was one or two speakers that spoke about mentors they had. Females tend to be the mentors, the coaches in organizations and institutions that drive transformational changes. And I think when we have females in the helm of leadership positions, it's not only hearing those differences in voices and opinions that comes through, but oftentimes they have an impact on policies, on procedures, what would be the right thing for the institution or the organization to do. And there are many more interesting pieces too. I think as engineers, as female engineers, we need to advocate for more females coming into the profession. And how do we really do that systematically? How do we recruit and retain engineers or females in these classes and in the discipline too? And in my opinion, it requires a collaboration, not just from the institutions offering engineering degrees, but also within employers that host these individuals, how to keep and retain this challenge. And it's that diversity of thought that we look for when we have diversified groups. And equally important, I think it's women of color, minorities that also have to be looked at in this equation of not just females, but in particular minorities and people of color as well, to have representation of all voices in the discipline. And I think we can do a better job at that.
Thank you. Certainly, I think that we would agree that representation matters. And also as engineers, we're coming in to fix problems, but you need to be able to understand the perspective of all perspectives of that problem. And things like, racialized minorities, culturally marginalized peoples, we need to be able to engage them. And I absolutely agree with you, more representation there. Daniela, how about you, please? Just to remind you, this is about the importance of women in leadership, how there's strength in our differences, and how women positively contribute to our profession.
Sure. I relate a lot with Mona because when I went to university, we were just only a few women. But it became even worse, I would say, when I went to work, outside of my country, because they were absolutely all of them men. So in my last department before coming back to Canada, the process department, I was the only woman in the entire floor of a 3-floor company. So it was kind of interesting. But what I heard from my colleagues was something really good. Although at the beginning there was too much resistance, let's say. But from the leadership point of view, they said, you know what, you brought here something that we didn't have. I said, what is it? So I think the work environment for all of us is more cooperative. So we were able to cooperate more. And I wanted to see, I don't know if it was let's say a cultural thing, but especially where I worked in Germany. So, but I was the teamwork. So something that it was kind of strange for them. So I was like, okay. So, and then they realized as we were hiring more and more women younger than me, so that this is something that is common, that it was common, in the entire group of process engineering. So, but in general, what I can feel, from my experience in different countries and different places, is that we definitely benefit from each other and from our differences, men and women. And depending on the situation, depending on, let's say, the conflict that we want to solve, the problem we want to solve, we have different approaches sometimes, different perspectives that we bring all together. And if we do that, we can solve, in the case of engineering problems, efficiently. So each situation is different. And sometimes we need that hybrid approach to solve it. And we need to be flexible. So when we bring more ideas and more diversity, that's better. It's more efficient at the end to solve it. So in general, I don't want to talk only our contribution is everything together. So how we make it possible, better, more efficient, more, optimal, I would say, and solving problems, and also management of some conflicts.
Thank you, Daniela, for your perspective and weaving in your experience with that too. Jonathan, how about you?
Thank you, Martine. Yes, my wife keeps reminding me that women are naturally good engineers because they are very good at dealing with problems and solving problems every day. I don't think I need to emphasize too much about the importance of women in leadership because women leadership has already made a significant contribution and is continuously making a positive and significant impact to the society and to the engineering profession, in our engineering teams, in corporate boardrooms, nationally and globally. So I think we experience it and we value it every day. I really believe, as I agree with Mona and Daniela, that I really believe that the more diverse the leadership is, then much stronger the leadership is. So I really, and this applies not only to the gender diversity, but also to the diversity of cultural and racial backgrounds and experiences. So as we have more diverse opinions and diverse perspectives and diverse understanding of the problems and diverse approaches to solve the problems and making decisions, and I think that's very important and beneficial to us.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot about inclusion and representation, and you know, as we said, racialized, culturalized, gender identity, of course, plays a big part in this too. Thank you, everyone. The path to engineering is different for everyone. For some, they've received the support of family and educators. But for others, they may not have felt like they were supported to pursue their dream career or have access to resources and information. Everyone has an individual, different experience. But we as a society, and specifically our education system, we play such an important role to inspire and support the next generation of individuals and engineers. And it's really important to discuss the variety of barriers that students face and the things that also support them. Cassandra, as a first-year engineering student, please, could you tell us how your family played an important role in supporting your passion for engineering?
Yeah, so I would say that my whole family really did support me through it. And it does make a difference when you know that you have, people rooting for you and for your success in the future. They're excited for you. Whether it's just help with, looking over your applications for things, helping you navigate some of these new pathways. It really does make all the difference to have people there for you. And, I hope that, whatever field you guys are going into, anybody who is going from high school into college or university, that you guys do have the support either from family or from friends. There were also a lot of teachers that did play a big role for me in being confident in moving forward with the next step in my career path.
And it's a big decision, and that confidence is important to take that next step out of high school and into higher education. And you're so lucky. I think you told me a story once about how your uncle was so excited when you had got in, that he was yelling really loudly. Yeah,
yep.
And that's wonderful. That's wonderful to have, especially as you go into your education. And once that elation of getting in, and the first couple of days, and then there's hard work to be done. So you have to continue to draw on that support. Jan, how about you? Can you share your insights on feedback that you've received from students who are interested in engineering and the barriers they face, maybe how we can help them to overcome some of these barriers?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Humber is a very diverse community, and we have a lot of students who face barriers at some point, but we see a couple of recurring themes with a lot of our students, our female students in engineering. And I don't mean to stereotype here, and it's so wonderful to hear Cassandra's story about support, because one of the first things we see is that sometimes the decision to study engineering is not always supported by students' families. And it's often just lack of awareness. So we see at open house, parents are saying, is this really a field for girls? Or would it be safe for my daughter to work in manufacturing around dangerous equipment? And we have faculty in terms of solutions at Open House who are, we spend time actually reassuring parents that yes, women do work in these fields and it is safe to do so. I've also had the great privilege of speaking with female students at award ceremonies who have not always been supported in their choices. And they are so empowered when they receive an award that recognizes either their academic achievement or leadership. And it really validates their choice. So particularly in FAST, we provide a number of awards for female engineering students and students in technology for just that reason. The second thing I think we see are a lot of cultural dynamics at play. So there are some cultures that maybe have more defined roles for males and females. And in other cultures, there's pressure on women to start a family versus have a career. And these are really powerful factors to overcome, and we get that. So in terms of solutions, we see our women faculty as being great role models for students. They tell us that they are approached all the time by female students in technology or engineering for advice on how do you as a faculty member balance career, life, children, household to manage, and all those different things. And one of the things we're really proud of at FAST at Humber is that 50% of our faculty in our new engineering degree programs are women. And that was a very purposeful decision to show our support for women in engineering.
Thank you. Absolutely. That's such a wonderful point to bring in. That role that we play is not just an academic guidance in faculty in administration, that we stand there and we're women and we're showing them how they can also be women in this world. And it can take a variety of different paths, but just giving them the confidence and the reassurance that you can be whatever kind of woman that you want to be in this field. Thank you so much. And it's really important to drive awareness of issues also of conscious and unconscious bias in engineering. So for me, I can think of situations where I was conducting site visits and I was giving PPE that was designed for a much larger man. You can't tell because we're on these little screens, but I am a small human being. I'm like a bird-like figure. I'm a wisp. And I was just drowning and my head was knocking around in this hat. And I not only didn't feel safe, but I felt embarrassed. And I felt like people were looking at me, and I didn't like the situation. A pink hard hat. And I know some people who have those and they own those, and I love to have the pink hard hat. But in this situation, I felt again like I was singled out based on my assumed gender identity. And I didn't appreciate that. So these are unconscious biases, just my examples. Everybody has some. And I'd really like to invite Daniela and Jonathan to share about experiencing bias situations. So let's start with Daniela, please.
Sure. So one is bias, the other one straightforward, I would say. When I started working in a plant, back in Venezuela, they were absolutely surprised that I was the first woman there, the first girl, working as a process engineer, and we didn't have washrooms for women. So I got to walk a couple of kilometers to go to the washroom, up to the point that I decided to share the washroom. So I was like, okay, so we either share, we understand, that's the way, but I cannot walk, 2 kilometers every time that I want to go. So stuff like that, that happened. Other stuff that they were more straightforward and against, I wouldn't call it bias, but it was absolutely against women, is that, for example, my boss recognized that my career path was fantastic and I wanted to become a manager, and he just said it directly, you're a woman, so you can't. So you cannot go to certain countries, as a woman, and talk with the client. So even in a country similar to Canada, I don't want to say where, but a similar country where even the chancellor was a woman up to a few years ago or last year, and I couldn't become a manager there. So, but my boss recognized something that I will never forget. So he said, you know what, you should go back to Canada because you got an opportunity there. So they sent me back to Canada. So I was transferred from Canada to that country and then back to Canada. I said, I'm pretty sure, they will recognize that there. And that happened. It happened in Alberta. So where I became for the first time, process manager. So still I got some resistance, of course, but from some people, but basically I was welcomed here to progress as a manager. So something that I didn't experience in many other places that I worked.
Wow, that's a very powerful story. Thank you for sharing your experience in that. Because it's not just it's being seen, as a woman before you're being seen as a leader. And that can feel stigmatizing at times. So thank you for sharing that. And also, Jonathan, can you please share any experiences that you've had? Because it's important to note that conscious and unconscious bias in industry is experienced by all genders and all cultures. So it's not only just, perhaps people identifying as male witnessing bias, but also they experience it too. Jonathan?
Thank you, Martine. We should not deny that we face these conscious and unconscious biases in our daily lives. And personally, I may have PhD from University of Toronto, and I'm a professional engineer and the associate dean at Humber College. But when I go out to the general public, it is not uncommon that people may approach me and treat me with their conscious and unconscious biases. And that's the reality, and that's the fact. And the question is what we can do about this and how to deal with this. One thing is that I really believe in education, and I believe that it is our responsibility to educate ourselves as well as the future generation about the principles of equity, diversity, and inclusion, hoping that society will learn and do better and better about treating each other with respect, not based on the gender or race or skin color or their cultural background. In addition to education, I also believe in that we need to be intentional about making changes and improving the conditions in our society. For example, Engineers Canada has adopted 30 by 30 initiative. That is 30% of women in all newly licensed engineers by year 2030. That's their initiative. And to make that happen, we need to be intentional about making changes and improving the environment in our educational systems and educational environment, in our hiring practices, as well as improving all aspects of our working environment and also the culture in our workplaces.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Over the past 2 years, I feel that the global pandemic has really brought out all of these experiences. They've really brought them to the fore, to the surface, as well as showcase the strengths and the core values women in diverse cultures bring to helping society and the importance of creating an inclusive workplace culture. So let's start with Jan and then Mona to discuss what strategies employers can put into place to help put young female students in engineering and STEM on a level playing field. Janice?
Thanks, Martine. And thank you, Jonathan, for introducing the Engineers Canada 30 by 30 initiative, because it is so timely. And there's great resources for a lot of employers on that website about early engagement. That's even before post-secondary, even secondary, as well as retention in the profession and recruitment in general. But I agree with Jonathan. If we have any hopes to achieving this goal of 30 by 30, we being educators and people in industry have to work together to get female engineering students into their field. And I have a list of about 5 things, but quickly, I think, please employers participate in programs like co-op, because that allows young students without a lot of work experience to explore different opportunities, and for female students in particular, find the organizations that support them. And as we know, co-op leads to graduate employment. So the students, all students need this work experience through co-op or as a graduate in order to get licensed. So we need employers to hire them. That's number one. I think the best level playing field is if we look at what students learn equally in their program, like the skills and knowledge acquired in the program. That's another place to start. What we see even at the co-op level, students come in with different experiences. Our male students in engineering tend to have production jobs or jobs that involve heavy lifting, whereas our female students still work in customer service or what we call pink collar jobs. Somehow we have to break that cycle and encourage employers to evaluate candidates based on what they learn in their program and not prior work experience only. Number 3, please give women an opportunity to meet with you. I mean, if an employer committed to interviewing every female engineering student that applied to their job posting, imagine what that would look like. include women engineers on your interview panel. That is an easy thing to do if you have women engineers in your company. They may see qualities in candidates that other interviewers may not see. And you also build this image of your company that you support women in engineering. And I think the last thing we see also with our students, once our students are hired in the workplace, and if we think about sometimes our girls are very smart, the feedback we get from employers is that they are very capable, they take their work very seriously, but sometimes they're shy and they're not always the first people to express themselves. So we would encourage managers in team meetings to ask female students what they think, ask for their opinions, and encourage women to find their voice and help the team see that they have to be open to everyone's voice and everyone's opinion and everyone's idea. And in the process, you're also communicating to all the students in your team that women have a voice and that everyone needs to be listened to.
Wow, that's incredible. I feel so much like we should be talking about this when you come and talk to our PACs as well. I think that we should put this on the agenda at a lot of our PAC meetings, just this very thing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Mona?
That was beautiful, Janice. So to build on some of Janice's ideas, it's the responsibility of, I think, the employer to look at their policies, not just in terms of recruitment. And I was delighted to hear faculty representation of female engineers in the discipline at Humber. That's great. But also, how do we retain these individuals? How do we retain females to stay in the profession? One of the reasons I stepped away from engineering in my career was the harsh environment and the environment I was working in. It wasn't quite representative of a female, not quite as harsh as Daniela explained with bathrooms and having to look, but it was a tough discipline to break through, and being the only female in the organization made it rather difficult to overcome some of those challenges and those obstacles ahead. So I think it starts within the institutions. It's a cultural shift for many of these institutions, and really understanding the value of this diversity and what this diversity means in terms of that. And I think we'll have an easier time because companies now all around the world are recognizing that diversity breeds creativity, brings efficiencies to the services and systems. So it just needs to be woven into that culture of that institution, so that they not only hire and attract these individuals, but retention of them is key as well. If the environment in that firm is not inclusive for me, I might try to stick it for a few months, but then maybe I'll say, no, I can't do this for 30 plus years as my career. So it's that cultural shift, and some of the suggestions that Janice brought forward in terms of how do we embed those pieces into the culture of that institution are critical as we move forward.
Thank you, Mona. So it's not just about hiring, it's also about having allies in the organization.
Yeah, mentors.
Really lift up. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Cassandra, so as an engineering student who'll be entering the workforce in 3 years, what strategies do you want employers to explore to create an inclusive workplace culture where women can thrive and positively contribute to their workplace? And I just want you to know, Cassandra, I think that this is such a great question to bring to you. And you have a lot of, your voice has a lot of power, even though you might not feel it just as a first year engineering student. But this is something that we want to know what your expectations are. Please.
Yeah, so kind of like Mona mentioned, one of the things that I am hoping for when I enter the field is some sort of mentor, whether that be at, my first work placement, or even if you're just moving from one workplace to another, having somebody there who can actually just, guide you for the first little bit. That transition period is really important, and making you feel like you are welcome and like part of the team there. That's really important to me. I think another thing that is very important would be I want to see like clear communication pathways between, employer, administration, and the employees. Kind of just like, a safe space to bring concerns and suggestions to the employer, as well as just having opportunities to engage with them. And just like an open dialogue with the people who are providing oversight over the work and, the company as a whole.
That's so wonderful how you put that, that safe space. So it's not just that, having a mentor, but feeling safe and so you can air all your views, and you can be in an environment where you're allowed to ask those questions, because that's how you'll continue to learn and to grow. And reciprocally, they'll learn and they'll grow too when they're really hearing you.
Yeah.
So let's consider what advice our panelists would give to high school students who are interested in pursuing a career in engineering and technology in a diverse world, and to employers who are recruiting engineering graduates. So Cassandra, you kind of touched on it a little bit. Is there more that you could explore there?
Yeah, so I would say for people who are applying to school, so high school students, and also, anybody who's applying to school, there can be a lot of stress during that time. You're trying to maintain your good grades. You're trying to, make sure all your applications are looking great, perfect. You want to make sure that you have, that you're going to be okay financially. So it can be a really stressful time. I think that one of the biggest things that helped me get through that was just being excited, maintaining my excitement and just the anticipation for what was to come. Keeping that and moving forward and keeping that in mind was really great, just because it is a very stressful time for students, I find, and for a lot of people in school administration as well. You're trying to look out for the people that are coming, or the people who you have taught for years. So I think keeping that anticipation, that excitement, not letting that fizzle out under the stress is super important for students.
Yeah, and I think that I'm seeing so many heads nodding. I think we're all remembering back to when we were making those applications to school, and that excitement, and that, that something new is coming, and feeling, like you said earlier, Cassandra, that confidence that you were taking your own path and your own steps. Daniela, how about you?
Well, I do have a dog here that is cheering me up. So if you listen to one of the sounds here, it's just my dog that is supporting me, and she's also female. So a few things that helped me, and I can't believe I got to cite my parents, because they weren't supportive at all when I decided to become an engineer, but they asked me to do two things and keep it for the rest of your life: be disciplined and perseverance. So no matter what happens, stay there always. You gotta fight, you gotta just make your effort always. And there's another thing. So you gotta understand that the bias is there. You're going to understand it. You're going to recognize that the bias is there, but you got to take a step forward. So we got to show who we are. We got to show what we are capable of as professionals and humans. So it's not just like, oh, okay, there is a bias. No. Take that step forward and show yourself, how capable you are, of doing things and what you can do. And finally, when you finish successfully your bachelor or everything, or your graduate studies, travel a lot. So see other people, see other cultures, other countries. So see how they work, how they are, how they do things, because you learn a lot, even from those cultures that they're absolutely different than ours. And you might think, well, that you do have a role as a woman that is different than in these cultures. Maybe you learn a lot. So you learn to understand, to be more tolerant also, and understand that the bias itself is just a cultural thing sometimes, and it's quite difficult to change. So you recognize it, you understand, you move on, you take that step forward and learn from others and from other cultures.
Thank you so much. Janice?
Hi, thanks again, Martine. I think for the things that I would say to a student in high school thinking about engineering is that, number one, I think you need to create a positive vision for your future. So there's a line that, you can't be what you can't see. So my vision growing up did not include engineering. So the more that you investigate, think about things that you'd like to do, and think about what inspires you. Women engineering maybe bring a different take on what society needs are. Engineers serve our community and our populations. So what problem do you want to solve if you were an engineer? Is it clean drinking water? Is it affordable housing? Climate change, harnessing solar energy, working in IT, building infrastructure so that people can communicate? What inspires you? And create that positive vision of your future, so that when you need those jolts of excitement, like Cassandra talked about, it's there for you, because you're constantly working on this positive feeling and you're moving forward. I think role models or mentors are really important. It certainly made a difference in my life and my career. If you don't have one now, colleges and universities encourage employers to be mentors and role models. So look for that as you make your decisions. And lastly, I don't want to sound like a cliche, but I think we have to believe in ourselves, and women need to maybe hear that more often maybe than men, without stereotyping. But I'm thinking about a female student who said to me last year after finishing her co-op work term, and this was after 2 years of being thrust into online learning, 2 years of COVID rather, and all those challenges. And she said, I have more skills than I thought, and I am stronger than I thought. And again, I think women need to have that evidence in order to believe. So I would just say that know that there are possibilities out there for you. There are more initiatives right now directed at women in engineering to be successful and to get hired than ever before. So take advantage of those. Find co-op programs that will support you with all the additional supports that you get. And again, I wish everyone all the best in their decision making.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Again, Mona.
No problem. So to build on these comments, I think my number one advice to any high school student wanting to pick any discipline is pick something you're passionate about, pick something that you're strong at, pick something you're good at. And that goes for any discipline or any profession that we select. But I think as Janet mentioned, that investigating the discipline, finding out as much as you can about that engineering profession as possible, be it going to the various university college websites or coming to open houses, visiting campuses, visiting labs, speaking to faculty, and networking as much as possible before making that informed selection for the profession. I think that's key. That's one way that students can guarantee their own success in that discipline and be successful in that. And one thing that's really key as well, majority of programs these days have co-op or placement opportunities, various opportunities. I think these are exceptional for engineering students in particular to get exposed to different fields and industries, to know which industry is it that I'm intrigued to work in. Is it manufacturing I want to work, or is it logistics, distribution, or perhaps other pieces that I'm interested in? So that doing that homework beforehand really makes that choice much more successful. And also having that role model, having a faculty mentor or someone that you can rely on, someone who's an engineer, someone who's maybe your faculty, someone who has more experience as you enter the profession. I think that would be key for students as well. And in terms of advice for employers, it would be, I think some of it has come up in today's discussion already, but Janice mentioned, what would it be like if employers interviewed every female applicant for these positions? What would that diversity, mean and translate for those institutions and those organizations? And offering those opportunities for, co-op placements, mentorship to employers really helps establish that pipeline that we're after from talent really to careers in engineering. And hopefully we can open more doors for females in this discipline.
Thank you, Mona. Jonathan, can we hear from you?
Thank you, Martin. And already all the panel members mentioned a great thing about to the potential engineering students. And engineering and technology are already making significant impact to our society and shaping our society and our daily lives. So there is unlimited possibilities in engineering technology for your career if you are interested in. And as Janice mentioned, engineering technology potentially can solve a lot of problems that our society is facing globally and locally and globally. And you can make the difference if you choose this profession. So if you are good at math and science, and if you are good at solving problems, I strongly recommend to you to consider your career in engineering and technology. But at the same time, from high school students' perspective, you may face some difficulty and challenging to get into the engineering schools because they are becoming a very competitive and very challenging to get into. So I like to mention that Humber has the engineering degree programs from the polytechnic approaches with very much hands-on and practical and project-based learning environment, not just based on the theoretical and analytical skills. So this can be a very good alternative for you in choosing the engineering education. I also want to mention this to our potential employers who may be looking to hire engineering graduate and co-op and engineering co-op students. We Humber can offer you, and because you understand the skills gap existing in the industry, between the industry and the skill sets of engineering graduate from traditional engineering schools. And we can mention that the Humber engineering degrees are designed to close this skills gap. And I sincerely hope that you can consider Humber engineering students and graduate in your hiring practices.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. And we have a wonderful co-op as well, which Jan was saying is such an important part. So with that, these wonderful final words, thank you so much. This concludes our panel discussion, and we're inviting our viewers to please submit a question or comment for our panelists in the chat. And while we're waiting for anything that you want to ask or any comments or any experiences you want to share, please type a message in there, and we'd love to hear from you. While we wait, we might ask the viewers, maybe, for example, you want to share your viewpoint on, again, like what we've just been talking about, what strategies employers can put in place to help young female identifying students in engineering and STEM, or how to encourage students to pursue STEM, high school students. So we've heard things from, mentorship is important, having an ally, safe space. I think we have something here in the chat, if I can read out from Catherine. She says that she was moved when she said that my high school, this was just to me, said that my high school test ignored me being a doctor. Yeah, I was upset when that happened. I'm a female engineer that graduated from Waterloo in 1987, had a competency test in high school that said I would make a good nurse. Being a doctor was not mentioned. I think that things would change. Yes, this was in the early 90s. I took my aptitude test. I guess what I took from it was that I was destined for maybe a leadership role to be head nurse. And I never ever think that the word bossy is negative. Although probably my family thought differently at that age. Here we have some questions in the chat here. First one for our panelists, please. How can students get connected to prospective mentors? Maybe that's one that Jan, you might be able to touch on.
Certainly, yes. We spend a lot of time working with employers, especially on the co-op side, to develop relationships with employers. And we, as part of our work preparation for co-op, we invite employers to sign up to be mentors and role models for our students. And of course, we encourage students to also reach out to people that they may know in their network. Find someone whose opinion you trust and who can help guide you and motivate you, and ideally in the profession. But again, we have resources within most co-op departments to help connect you with mentors.
Thank you, Jan. We have another question here from Sandra, which is open to everyone. So she says, thank you for this great event and sharing the inspiring stories. My question is open to anyone on the panel. What is the biggest risk you've taken, career or personal, and what did you learn? Oh, what a great question. Thank you so much. Does anybody want to jump in? Daniela, I feel like this is something that you can maybe address to, the biggest risk you've taken.
Oh God, because I'm a risky person, probably. Yeah. Accepting assignments in very risky countries. I mean, like war kind of a thing. So I wasn't working for CNN or anything like that as a journalist, but I accepted very difficult assignments in countries that they were in the middle of a conflict, countries that culturally speaking and for many reasons, they didn't accept women so easy. So I did this not only because I wanted to get out of my comfort zone, I wanted to learn. So if you're on the ground, I mean, you learn why. So why are these things happening? So why don't you like me? So what is it? And it was a huge risk also from the personal point of view. So my family was freaking out an entire day. I mean, just like telling me 1,000 times, I mean, what is this happening? What are you in those countries? And I'm like, because this is where the business is. So, and they required, I mean, a process engineer with this characteristics. So I'm capable of doing this. And I really need to learn what's going on. So on the ground. So not only what I read, what I know from the media, I just need to be there. And it was, it's a good experience. I mean, personal and professional experience, because there is always something to learn from people, even when they disagree culturally or they disagree technically or anything. So because they have their own ways and their countries and their places, they work somehow a bit differently than us. And you learn a lot. You learn even more than university sometimes. I mean, when you're there and you share these experiences with people like that. I met women that they couldn't go to university. They couldn't even read or write. So, and they were surprised. I mean, that, wow, so the person that they sent is actually to coordinate, I mean, operations here is a woman. So, and I wasn't respected at the beginning, some of those places. Nope, I wasn't. But then they realized, they looked at me differently. So after a while, so they were like, it's not a woman, it's an engineer. So it's fair enough. So they never understood and they never accepted, but there are always ways to handle situations. So, and look at in a different perspective. So it's the perspective of an engineer. So that's how you need to look at me, even if you don't like that I'm a woman. So, and yeah, that's basically many risks, many risks. I mean, in all these places that I went, basically. Yeah.
And I'm going to jump in just because I asked my own thing too. So for me, I think it was, I've lived in many different places. So I'm actually from Vancouver Island, and I didn't feel like a lot of people really left. I had, that's not fair to all of them, but you know, people really, it was a small community. And I really felt like I wanted to find my own path. And that was really hard to leave that kind of environment. And so for me, I lived in Switzerland, I've lived in Montreal, and I lived in London. I had education opportunities, all these things, and opening up and meeting all these new people and befriending all these new people really taught me so much about the world that I thought I knew, but I didn't. And it changed me as a person, made me a better person. It made me, I'm more interested in other people now. It's really helped me develop my career and made me a more collaborative person, I think. And really seeing things as more integrated and appreciating and seeking out diversity, actually. Well, that's it for our time tonight. So to our panelists, Mona, Daniela, Jonathan, Jen, Cassandra, thank you so much for sharing your stories and your career journeys. We truly, truly appreciate your contributions to our industry and to our academic environment. To our viewers, thank you for taking your time out to this beautiful evening to join us. We hope that you have been inspired and you can leave our online event with new perspectives and insights. For more information on Humber College's 3 new engineering degrees in information systems engineering, information systems engineering and mechatronics and the built environment, please visit our website at humber.ca/engineering. National Engineering Month continues for the whole month of March with more than 40 free online events to choose from, including our next during Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Week, when my colleague, Dr. Dave Smitterly, Associate Dean of Continuous Professional Learning, will be leading a discussion with professional engineer Yuka Mariamana. And she is from Magna Powertrain on the importance of leveraging diversity and providing all Canadians with the opportunity to gain current industry relevant skills. So something that we've been talking about here today too. So we really hope you'll join them on Friday, March 25th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for an engaging discussion on the importance of professional and personal growth, which is needed in a world of constant change. A special shout out to OSPE, the Ontario Society of Professional Engineers, for organizing National Engineering Month this year, And a special thank you to all of our National Engineering Month partners who are highlighted in the closing slide. So once again, thank you so much for helping us engineer her dream career. Stay safe, stay healthy, and good night to all. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.